Hey, RetconRaider here. Today's video is dedicated to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible. With special thanks to Revenant, Anerdinwarpaint, Antonio Hernandez, Dragon Matrix 7, Exsellsior, Lima, Nathan Welch Jr., and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, let's get started. And welcome back to the Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous beta. As we gear up for one last adventure before the current beta comes to an end. Full disclosure, I was not originally planning to do another episode in this version of the beta. Owlcat surprised everyone, myself included, by announcing that they were in fact going to do a third version of the beta, which will be dropping sometime in mid to late July. No exact date on that just yet. That said, I am still curious about this encounter, and there's no guarantee I'll trigger it again next time around when I rebuild our progress in Beta 3. And I have to imagine it's something that's new, or maybe something I just never triggered with my test groups, which is a possibility. There's a lot of hidden reactivity in the early events of the Wrath campaign. With that in mind, we will go ahead and run through this encounter. I have no idea how long it's going to take. And then if we have any time left over, we'll keep marching up the Salin. Have another gander at the Crusade mechanics, maybe see if we can track down an optional location to visit. We'll see how it goes. Through the mist, you spot the flickering flame of a campfire. 3 figures wrapped in Crusader cloaks are huddled next to it. A stout, smiling dwarf, a brash, dark-haired halfling, and a delicate-looking woman that appears to be very young. The campfire is crackling cozily, driving away the bleak fog, promising warmth and rest to tired legs. Noticing you, the halfling nimbly reaches for its weapon, but then relaxes. Hey, it's the commander himself. Don't just stand there, have a seat by the fire. It's a bit damp today, but you might as well dry off at least. In an amiable gesture, he passes you a big cup that smells of freshly made tea. Who are you? Frontline scouting party. Our senior sent us ahead to look for ambushes. We've been walking all day, so we're taking a break. Go ahead, help yourself to some tea. It's an honor for us to be sharing a campfire with the commander. The dusty boots, the patched cloaks, and the mess kits lying next to the campfire all mark these 3 as seasoned scouts. A broad smile blossoms on Sela's face. I couldn't have dreamed of coming across such good company. I don't suppose you guys have anything stronger than tea in your canteens. Catching the halfling's conspiratorial look, she smiles even brighter. Rubbing his hands excitedly, Woljif casts a hopeful look at the cup of tea, then at you. Chief, just so you know, walking away from campfires where folks give you food for free is a sin in the eyes of the gods. Yeah, is that so? What are your names? Proudly lifting a chin split with a white scar, the halfling says, I'm Sergeant Velm, the leader of this gang of daredevils. You can tell by Velm's appearance that he's a fighter. He sports a nose that's been broken more than once, well-fitted gear, a gutsy spark in his eyes. All the hallmarks of a feisty, courageous warrior. The dwarf grunts and grins. Why would you call our heroic squad a gang, Velm? I am Tran, foot soldier, cook, quartermaster, and mother hen of this lot. And the one who sets up the tent for Hasty, given that she doesn't even have the muscle to drive a stake into the ground. With a smirk, Tran glances at the woman, who immediately turns red in the face. The sweet, still very young cleric opens her mouth to say something, but shuts it immediately and blushes even more. Finally, she mutters sheepishly. I'm Hasty. Pleased to... at your service, Commander. The location for the camp was chosen wisely. It's safe and quiet here. No tracks in sight, the air is calm. But an odd feeling of wrongness bites at you like a riled-up wasp. Something isn't right. Interesting. It's quiet here, all right, like in a grave. I don't know why, but I don't like the feel of this place. It makes my scales stand on end. Aren't you scared? Camped out here in enemy territory? The dwarf gives you a disapproving sidelong glance. You wound me, Commander. I've walked many roads. I know a good spot for a camp when I see one. Even if a whole file of cultists marched by, they wouldn't think of checking up on this place. In the meantime, we would watch quietly and count every last one. Although embarrassed, Asty adopts a serious tone and comments in Tran's direction. You and your boasting. Her two comrades greet her remark with a burst of laughter. Alright, well, aside from the strange feeling that something is wrong, we haven't really seen any evidence that would indicate there's really anything untoward going on here. It could be demons, it could be smugglers, could be deserters, but nothing we've seen, I think, would justify a really aggressive response. And let's be honest here, Creed has a middling intelligence and wisdom score, and a chaotic good or reckless good alignment. I feel like he would take a chance on them, at least initially, so let's see where this goes. Well, since you're offering. You bet we're offering. The halfling moves with such deftness that you didn't even notice when a warm cup of tea appears in your hands. The tea's fragrance is gorgeous. Where did you get such extraordinary tea? I can tell the commander knows more about cooking than some. Tran leans over to you and says weightily, It's cat's holly. I bought it from a merchant from Absalom. Worth every coin, though, eh? Cat's holly. The name sounds vaguely familiar, but you've never heard of it being used in cooking. You seem to recall that it causes delirium. Apparently, being this far away from the discipline of strict officers, the scouts decided to indulge in a little fun with happy dreams. Well, I think that is all the justification we need to not indulge. Drugging ourselves up whilst out and about in the Worldwound sounds like an awful idea. I wish there was an option to just politely decline, but I guess we'll just have to politely excuse ourselves instead. You attempt to stand up, but your worn legs give out from exhaustion. Your whole body protests against the mere idea of going anywhere. This sudden weakness you're feeling is very suspicious. The sickly sweet scent coming from the cup in your hands hints at the drink being intoxicating. And that must just be the fumes, because we clearly didn't drink it. Come now, Commander. What's the sense in going ahead of the scouts? What if you run straight into the enemy lines? You'll lose your head for nothing, and the army won't last long without you. Get a night's rest with us, and set out first thing in the morning. Alright, I think we've given these guys just about enough leeway. No, something's not right. To battle! Smirking brazenly, the halfling licks his lips with a surprisingly long, pustule-covered red tongue. Ha! Would you look at that? He didn't buy it. Enough of this masquerade then, everyone. No more games. The figures by the fire ripple and transform. 3 gray-haired and dark-skinned elves watch you with mocking sneers. Their twisted, grimacing faces look demonic. From the haze, more previously unseen shadows materialize. They are all just as loathsome and dark. The campfire emits a sickly sweet, intoxicating smell, and in the squat kettle, you see some slimy mushrooms swimming in a disgusting, boiling goop. Drow, I was not expecting that. Who are you? The individual who is pretending to be the halfling Vem makes a face, mimicking you with an obnoxious voice. Who are you? We are servants of Lord Discari, and you are a pitiful insect that got caught in our web. The elf who is masquerading as the cleric Aesty gives you a lecherous smile, passionately dragging her tongue along the blade of her dagger. Did you like sweet little Aesty? Did you want to play with her in your tent? Hard pass. You freaks! Seela looks at those who appeared to be trusted allies a moment ago with open disgust. How did I not see you for what you are right from the start? Witless paladin, you really think your ability to sense evil can't be fooled? Lady Anamora taught us long ago how to trick the likes of you. What's with the charade? Lady Anamora desires your head, and will gladly deliver it. The elf whose voice his Tran was so convincing lets out a repulsive snicker. You think I'm your prey? You've messed with the wrong crusader. I love it when prey tries to fight back. All right, we've got a fight on our hands. They've got range support up top. And a couple of magi down here. Let's start with the casters. Ooh, a Knife Master. Ember, if you would. Oh, well, fantastic. He had a +1 will mod and he still managed to pass. Off to a good start, I see. Sounds like another caster up top. We'll get Lan on that. Oh, you wacky drow, thinking you can actually... Ow! Come on! Can't even brag about how tough I am without someone stabbing me in the kidney. Alright, fine. I'll just slaughter the whole lot of you. Then I'll brag. Okay, Lan, you are up. Actually. I figured it was slightly more important to get those sneak attacks off the field. Very nice. Well done, Woljeff. One more. Ow. Two can play at that game. Ah, evasion. Yeah, that makes sense. Whoa, Tran. That was a poor decision on your part. Oh boy. Heals. Ow. Lan, if you would. Thank you. And there goes Vel. The RNG is not being kind.
Eternal Rose, I call upon you! A mock fight?
Oh my. And there goes sweet little Asty. Such a shame. She seemed nice.
Time to share your treasures!
Oh, wow. Well, that's one way to make sure we don't take you alive. Oh, for goodness sake. A natural 20, really. Oof. Hang in there, so-so. Man, come on, man. Alright, alright. Jerks.
I will lend you my aid.
Rely on me.
Let's get some lights up.
I'm here. Where else would I be?
Oh, hold on. Turns out past retcon already prepared for that. He just neglected to inform me. So yeah, Drow. That actually does explain why I've never seen this encounter before. My first test group was back in the original beta, so that was before they added all the Drow stuff. And then my second test group was a Lich Vivisectionist who actually killed Kaelessa when he caught her skulking around. So, obviously, with her dead, there was no need for any follow-up stuff. As reward for not killing her on sight, it appears we have been ambushed by demonic Drow cultists. Good for us. Though I do note that they did not mention Kaelessa by name. They only mentioned their cult leader. Though it does seem like too much of a coincidence for us to run into these guys right after our chat with both Kaelessa and Thorn, actually. Yeah, we talked to both of them before we left camp, so I'm not sure which one might have triggered this. Whoops. Okay, I guess we're not done here. Stop that. Okay, Ember, sweetie, that is... You know what, you're doing fine. Looks like no reinforcements rolling in.
I will bring down the divine wrath. Make every strike count.
And now it's over. Interesting. I wonder why those guys didn't join the initial ambush. Oh, you know what? I bet they were intended to be like a second line of defense if we had pushed up on the crossbowmen. So how'd that work out for you guys? No response. Alright, now I believe we are done here. No clues or anything, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens next. I suppose we could go talk to Forn, but honestly, I already imagine I know what he'll say. He'll just use this as further evidence that we should kill Kaelessa on sight instead of listening to whatever she has to say. Moving on. Okay. Yeah, it looks like we've still got about a half hour on the clock, so I guess we'll just keep pushing on up the West Salem River. See if we can make a bit more progress towards Drezen. Now, from what I recall, our forces are not currently strong enough to take on any of these optional armies off to the side. Yeah. We would have to spend at least a few more days building up. I will note, though, that the player's party can slip by the actual army unit, so we can still explore those branches. We just can't recover any goods those armies are guarding. The only thing that actually blocks our progress as a party are the fortress sites. Those have to be destroyed in order to allow our party to progress past them. Looks like we're also getting pretty close to level 7, just a few 100 points shy. So here's what we'll do. We'll push up past these armies. We'll go check out Chili Creek. That's where Jernog, the traveling priest of Erastil, was headed. We'll see how he's doing, maybe knock out a couple of random encounters, and, Oh, hello there. Conundrum Unsolved. Ancient ruins that Sarkarus inherited from the unknown builders of the Earthfall times. The Sarkorians dubbed this place the Conundrum Unsolved. Scattered all over the walls of the ruins are numerous pressure plates, buttons, and levers, the purpose of which one can only guess. Which I believe is part of the Riddle of the Sphinx stretch goal, an elaborate series of puzzle locations, each concealing a hidden treasure and all combining to create some sort of grand demonic mystery, which sadly I have been informed is not actually fully functional in the current build, so we'll just ignore that. Though we will revisit it in build 3. Oof, strength 4. Yeah, it'll be a while before we can reasonably clear that. We'll just push off to the east. Looks like Chili Creek is indeed our best bet. Legion's recharged. I think we can reasonably take out that army we just passed. They're not too tough. And like I said before, there is a snowball effect. As you take out more of these armies, your general becomes more powerful and you unlock additional resources. Okay, so I have been asked to elaborate on just how this Crusade stuff works. And I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert. There's not a whole ton of documentation on it. But it does seem fairly straightforward. Generally speaking, the rules are a lighter abstraction of the standard tabletop combat rules. Except, of course, in this case, each unit does not represent a single dude. It represents an entire squad of people, dozens or even hundreds of troops of that specific troop type. There are no attack rolls. Every attack is assumed to automatically hit, which makes sense because, of course, it represents an entire squad attacking, not just one person. But the RNG really comes into play with the overall damage inflicted. Each individual person in a squad contributes towards that squad's power, with the power dictating the number of total dice that the squad rolls when it attacks an opposing squad. Every X amount of damage that they inflict kills one individual in the opposing squad, which of course then in turn reduces the overall power of that squad, making it less capable of effectively striking back. So obviously it's generally in the player's best interest to get the first strike in so they can weaken the opposing squads, thus reducing the opponent's damage potential before they get to strike back. I suppose the other thing the player has to keep in mind is morale. That's one of the other big mechanics. That is another point where RNG comes into play. If a squad's got positive morale, they gain bonuses, passive bonuses to power, and to resist certain effects. If they have a negative morale, however, they have a random chance each turn of skipping their turn or even just trying to flee, which of course can have some pretty devastating consequences. Then you've got all sorts of other variables you might have to deal with, like spells. Heroism, for example, temporarily boosts the power of a target unit. Not to mention, certain units have special defenses or attacks. Enemy generals can cast spells or give special commands. It's all pretty basic right now, but it does grow more complex as you get further into the campaign. Though I will admit it's a bit bare bones in the current build, so I'm hoping they flesh it out with build 3, and then of course even more so in the full launch build. That said, much like the Kingdom mechanics in Kingmaker, it's not, I think, intended to be the focus of the main campaign. It's just something you do on the side. It's a supplementary mechanic, meant to add variety and immersion to the campaign. Of course, the player wants to do well with the Crusade, but I imagine there will likely be a toggle that will allow the player to just let the computer handle all that stuff, if they don't want to deal with it. Anyway, let's whittle down those enemy archers, shall we? Oh yeah, half of them dead, and they are freaking out. That is what a failed morale check looks like. Very nice. Yeah, and I think that pretty effectively shows the advantage of taking the first strike. The Crusaders duly punished a group of mercenaries who had become enticed by demonic gold and turned their blades against their former allies. Those who reject the blessing of the benevolent gods and succumb to the temptation of sin deserve death, and death they got. Justice has been served, and the clerics feel that the gods are satisfied with this outcome. Okay. Which nets us some divine favors. That is one of the ingredients we need for clerics. Though it looks like we also need materials, which we do not currently have. And of course, divine favors are also used for things like paladins and eventually angels and other special divine units, if the player gains access to them. Obviously right now, we're restricted to the basic stuff, footmen, archers, clerics. But as the campaign moves forward, the player's decisions, their mythical path, the diplomatic choices they make with other factions and nations, and even some of the companions they recruit, can end up dictating what units they will and won't gain access to. And while a lot of those units do overlap, many of them are just variants of basic units. They'll each have their own strengths and weaknesses, and some, of course, might end up inviting special events. You know, it's a lot easier to keep disciplined troops in line, for example, as opposed to disparate marauders or barely leashed demons. So some potentially interesting stuff. Man, skills are definitely our party's weak point. That's something I might try to fine-tune a little when I rebuild our progress for Beta 3. Good enough. Hey, we actually passed all our checks. Even the cooking check. Kudos, Sela. Alright, Chili Creek. A sleepy fishing village outside the Worldwound. A quiet place on the bank of a lazy river where nothing interesting happened since the founding day. And as we well know from recent experience, things are always as they seem. Oh, that is, quite a sound to walk in on. What, Oh, I see. It appears something has killed that direwolf. And, that direwolf is decked out in full barding. That's interesting. Alright, so right off the bat here, we're getting some bad vibes. Let's get some buffs up, then we'll go have a peek at that.
The world has suffered enough.
Ask nicely.
You're a good person. I like you.
Meditate on your mistakes. It might make you feel better.
That's actually something I may do when I rebuild our progress for Beta 3, is make a few tweaks to our spell selections just to give us better coverage with this party. Oh, we saw something. Oh, we've actually got a slope right here. So we can push up there and get a closer look. Ooh, plagued Smilos. Oop, and we're fighting. Oof, those are full-grown Smilos, too. Okay, we're gonna have to focus fire. These things are dense. Yikes. Yeah, so much for that. Oh, so close. Alright, Woljif, it's up to you. You have failed me, and now you will die. No, Kaiser.
I failed you, friends.
No, so, but less than Kaiser. Well, on the bright side, he's not dead, so I think we're actually good here. Oh, nice. And Woljif redeems himself. Good job, buddy. Let's see if we can tape all that lacerated skin back together.
Let me help.
Do we actually have anyone who's trained in nature? We do not, so that is yet another shortcoming we'll have to address when I rebuild this party.
The goddess protects us.
But So can still rock a +8, so that's not too bad. Hey, we actually passed most of the checks, too. Good job, So. Oop. Jernog walks thoughtfully around the grove. He pauses in front of a few trees, lingering there for some time. He seems to be examining something carefully. At the sound of your footsteps, he turns around abruptly, but the anxious expression on his face quickly gives way to an amiable smile. Commander, it is so good to see you. It seems you found time to visit our quiet backwater after all. I could be mistaken, but it looks like you were frightened by my arrival. Oh, no, you startled me, that's all. It's my overactive imagination. I still can't get used to living in such a small village. The town where I grew up was a good deal larger, and it was located near a trade route, so there were always lots of new faces, and plenty of people bustling around. Here, though, it's different. The moment you step outside the village, you're all alone. You can walk for miles in any direction with only the birds and animals for company. This is, of course, the way Erastil teaches us to live. But, truth be told, it still makes me feel somewhat uncomfortable. Why were you looking at those trees? See for yourself. He points to one of the branches, and among the leaves, you notice a small doll made of grass and seaweed, tied with blue ribbon. I keep finding them here in the grove. I think it's some kind of local ritual. I've asked the villagers to tell me what it means, but they won't give me an answer. I just don't understand the reason for all this secrecy. How do you like living in the village? I'm getting used to the way of things. I still get the occasional sidelong glance from the locals, but that's not surprising. After all, I'm just some stranger who decided to show up without an invitation and settle down in the village. But the church warned us about this. Such caution is to be expected at first. I just have to do my best to earn their trust. I heal, I purify the water, I give blessings. Sooner or later, they will accept me as one of their own. It's so quiet here. War makes you forget what peace feels like. I understand. My time in Canabris gave me a small taste of war. I only had to live through it for a few days, but I know the horrors I witnessed will haunt my nightmares for years to come. I cannot imagine how hard it is for those like yourself, soldiers who have given their lives to this cause. The priest places a hand on his heart. You have chosen to fight there in order to protect our peaceful and quiet life here, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. So, what do the locals think of Erastil? They're indifferent. They are pragmatic people, you know. They don't have time for theology. If old Deadeye helps them survive, that's good enough for them. You know, some priests get overzealous with sermons. They demand that people pray, observe all the rituals, make sacrifices, and then those priests, all holy and pious, are surprised when locals kick them out of their village, right into the nearest ditch. The priest laughs. I was taught differently. First, you have to prove your worth. You have to show them why you and your deity are useful. It's only after they've begun to trust you and start asking questions about your faith that you can really share your beliefs. Then you can tell them about old Deadeye and his teachings. Well then, will you show me around the village? Of course, let's go. You'll get to meet the locals, see how we live. Maybe you'll even manage to get some peace and quiet, a temporary respite from the hardships of war. Don't get offended if they start gawking at you. In this remote village, people have never seen someone of the people of stone. For them, you are as exotic as a walking wooden doll. But I have already explained to them the best I could that there are some mortals who originate from the creatures living on the plane of Earth. They seem to understand, but I have no doubt they will be wondering anyway. I like that so many NPCs are suddenly noticing that I'm an Oread. Three old dolls hang from the branches. Their grass and seaweed bodies are slowly rotting away. A small doll, made of grass, is tied to a tree with a dark blue ribbon. A straw doll, clad in a small, skillfully embroidered light blue dress, is tied to the trunk of the tree. Very, Blair Witch. A piece of gray ribbon hangs from the branch. It is pretty out here. Oh. Watch out for those huge teeth. Don't let them catch you. Aim for her throat and belly. Fewer scales there. Don't be afraid, everyone. We've fought ones bigger than this. Well, let's get in there. We'll have to move quick, try to minimize potential casualties. I compliment your boldness. I would not punch a Hydra in the face. You know what? Maybe it's not such an urgent situation. They actually seem to have this under control. That'll teach you to mess with us. A man with green eyes, the broad shoulders of a swimmer, and the calloused hands of a fisherman shakes his fist at the beast's motionless carcass. Something's got 'em all worked up. That's the second time they've crawled out this month. So let 'em come. A woman, her eyes the same shade of green as the fisherman, smiles at you. It's not the first time, and it won't be the last. But what's it matter? They can't hurt us. And we can use their hides to make a lot of waterproof coats and cloaks. Markle, Melissa, I'd like to introduce you to someone. This is Creed Ironfang, the commander of the Crusade. He's the one I told you about. Ah, a real hero in our little backwater. It's so nice of you to drop by. We've never had anyone so important come to visit. Heroic acts are important, but sometimes it's good to leave the front lines and talk to ordinary people living ordinary lives. Anyway, welcome to Chili Creek. Hydras are usually far more dangerous. That beast was not at its full strength. I can tell you have an eye for such things. Well, of course he does. He's the commander of the Crusade. He probably could have told you all that with his eyes shut. Melissa smiles at you. It's all thanks to our mother, Icy Rill. She takes care of her children, won't let anyone hurt them. She fills our nets with fish and drives away the monsters. That's right, and if she doesn't drive the beasts away, she'll weaken them, so we can kill them and harvest their hides. Icy Rill? Who's that? She's right here. Markle nods toward the river. Did you think this was the Sellen? No, it'd take you a half a day's rowing before you reach that river. It's big, to be sure, and very important. The Sellen flows through at least a dozen countries. But where would the great Sellen be if it wasn't fed by thousands of little streams and creeks, such as our dear Icy Rill? The people of Chili Creek hold the river in great reverence. The priest's observation is matter of fact, but you notice his voice sounds a bit strained. How can we not? Our whole lives are built around the river. From the wedding wreath we send down its stream, to the funeral boat that floats away on the waters when the time comes. Our mother, Icy Rill, feeds us, gives us water, protects us. With a kind smile, Markle casts a sidelong glance at the frowning priest. The gods are far away, but our Icy Rill is right here, so we treat her with respect. The two of you look very much alike. I assume you're related? Right, you are. Markle ruffles Melissa's hair. She laughs and tweaks his nose. She's my little sister. Takes after our granny, may her memory never fade. She was always restless, couldn't sit still. And Melissa is just the same. She's always up to something. And you took after our grandpa. May the river silt be his featherbed. You're as brave as he was. And just as stubborn. You two looked very confident when you were giving orders to the other villagers during the fight. Are you in charge here? Well, how should I put this? Our village is too small for anyone to be in charge. We just happen to know a thing or two about using a weapon, so if some nasty creature comes crawling out of the river, we give the orders. But when it comes to fishing or fixing nets, we'll be the ones following orders. We're not an army, and there are no officers here. We all live together, solve our problems together, and serve the Icy Rill together. Although, truth be told, it's only been in the last few years that people have really started listening to us. Before that, villagers kept to themselves, and no one wanted to go poking their nose into anyone else's business. When we first came up with the idea to start trading on the river, the other villagers stubbornly dug in their heels. But after money and goods began flowing into the village, they changed their minds. Yes, the village has been growing. We're getting to see all sorts of things we had only ever heard about before. The year before last, we had a fair, and people came all the way from Canabris to attend. Then a priest came, and we'd never seen one of those before in these parts. And now, who'd have thought? The commander of the Crusade has decided to pay us a visit. And not just a commander, but a child of the Stone People. All we heard about your kin before was tales and fables. Who knows, maybe your ancestors used to worship some mountain, just like we worship our icy rill? Sure, what are those grass dolls that hang from the trees in the grove? A shadow passes over Markle's face, and he looks away. There's nothing much to tell, really. An old local custom. It's just a ritual, Melissa adds in a low voice. No one seems willing to share any further details with you. How is life in the village, now that you've got a priest? Nothing much has changed. Markle shrugs and smiles amiably. He's a good lad. He does some healing, never bothers us with sermons. Why, he's even learning to fish in his spare time. He also knows a lot of songs, and when he sings, it makes you want to sit and listen. Melissa smiles archly at the priest, and he blushes. The Worldwound's not that far away. Have you ever been attacked by demons? No, we've never seen any. Our mother, Icy Rill, keeps us safe. She would never let such abominations get near us. Interesting. Interesting. All right, well, thank you. I should get going. Back to the front. Melissa shakes her head sadly. I can't even imagine the nightmarish creatures you have to fight there. Have a safe journey. And a swift victory. Well, considering that we are just in Act 2 of 5, I suspect that our victory will not be terribly swift. Though I do appreciate the sentiment.
We will win this war.
They seem nice. Though obviously I think this whole village is designed in a way intended to rouse the player's suspicions.
This is my kind of work.
Ooh. Oppressor's Gloves. These gloves grant their wearer a +2 bonus on persuasion checks made to intimidate. In addition, whenever the wearer of these gloves confirms a critical hit, the enemy suffers a -2 penalty on savings throws against mind-affecting conditions for 2 rounds. Huh. Interesting. I mean, thematically, that is an odd thing to find in a supposedly placid rural village. But I could certainly see them coming in handy. I'm not sure who the best person in our party to give those to would be. Our talkers generally aren't built for critical hits, so while they would benefit from the +2 to intimidation, they wouldn't gain much benefit from the crit effect. Creed, maybe. He does have a token amount in persuasion. Though he's also not really the type to go trying to intimidate people, so I don't know. Anyway, we are coming up on the hour mark. I think this is a good place to call it. I am intrigued by this location. I mean, the most obvious explanation is that Icy Rill is some sort of minor deity or demon or fey creature that they worship in exchange for its protection. But it is possible they could simply be subverting our expectations. Maybe it is a benevolent deity or entity, or maybe there is no actual entity at all, and this is just a peaceful rural village, an oasis away from the rigors of war. That would certainly be unexpected, but welcome. Anyway, we will hit the pause button for now and pick up here next time. Hopefully with Beta 3, though that will require me to rebuild our saves. That's fine. Nothing I haven't done before. See you then. Oh, and remember, although I do love playing Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous, you can find out more about the game by visiting the official website, the official social media feeds, or the official store pages. And if you'd like to help support the channel, then feel free to push those buttons that do the things, or maybe even check out the Patreon. Links are in the description.
We will win this war.